Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be hopping in Lordran, the game that made its name for itself, Dark Souls Remastered, and we're going to be ranking every boss from worst to best. So let's get into it. And starting in last place, it could be none other than the Bed of Chaos. I mean, this boss is really just a chore. It's a horrible run back, a horrible boss fight, it's not fun, and you just want to get it over with. Which is something that's annoying considering you paid for this game and you paid to have fun. So this fight consists of a pretty cool entry where you slide down a ramp, 3 phases. The first one where he just swings his hand until you burst his first ball sack, then he swings his hand and adds some firestorms, then once you break his second one, he does that on top of breaking the floor. Now what makes this fight so particularly annoying is that it just doesn't feel fair when you die. You're not dying because really a skill issue, you're just dying because you ran into the wrong place or dodged a millisecond late of predicting it. And that's about all I have to say for Bed of Chaos, so on to the next, and that's a little bit of a hot take, which is the Stray Demon. And I really think there was just no need to copy and paste this boss. It doesn't even really look different from the Asylum Demon, it just has an extra explosion attack, more health, and is bigger. At least the ones that you find later on have a cool little fiery effect to it, but this one really has nothing else going for it. Also, the arena is kind of cramped, and you also have to take half your health and fall damage every time you want to fight. And this boss fight, in a sense, is sort of just bland. Every single time I fight him, I end up just baiting out the butt attack, because some of his other attacks are just unfair and annoying. And coming in 24th place, that is the Centipede Demon. This fight is just there for no reason. There is really no purpose or existence for this fight to have been created, other than the orange shard ring that makes you run across the lava. There's 2 really bad things about this boss fight. I mean, mainly just one. The arena and his AI. So what happens is you are on a tiny little island and you cannot run across the lava to fight him. None of that, because you will die within 2 seconds. Now, what he has to do is run to you, but half the time, or in every situation that I fought him in, he just stands in the lava throwing punches at me, to the point where I thought it was like a gimmick fight where I had to look up guides for this. This fight is overall just really dependent on luck, and nonetheless, it's not really fun. And next up is Ceaseless Discharge. I mean, I think you can tell by the name this is a pretty wacky boss fight. Now, in order to get this boss fight started, you have to run to the back of the arena, which is quite a hefty run, and pick up his dead sister's clothes, which reasonably gets him mad. So what you can do is run all the way to the back of the arena to bait him to fall off, which is a free win, which 99.9% of people do, for good reason. Or, you can just fight him, which is pretty irritating and annoying, because he just spams the same moves, which have pretty questionable hitboxes, because there's lava and it just either one-shots you, or just knocks you to the side for no reason. And considering the best part of this boss fight is baiting him to fall off, this boss fight can't be that good. And coming up next is Demon Fire Sage. Now this fight is literally practically pixel by pixel, frame by frame, the exact same copy of Stray Demon, but I like the arena better. I also like how you don't take damage by just going into the arena, and I also like him. Like, he just looks better, he has a nice fire effect, he looks cooler. There's not really much else to say. I mean, I think it's just a little bit better, but it's still a pretty mid-fight. And coming in the 21st spot is the Moonlight Butterfly. Now this fight consists of you entering the arena, seeing a giant floating butterfly, that butterfly continuing to float for around 3 minutes while spamming spells at you, then eventually go take a nap on the bricks while you hit it, and you keep repeating that process till it's dead. And I really think this is a pretty cool concept and idea. The butterfly looks great, its attacks look great, but it's just pretty sleepy, and it's way too easy. But I still like to say I do like this boss fight, and any boss from here on out I still would consider a boss fight that I enjoy. And coming up next is one of the 4 Lord bosses, which is Seath the Scaleless. I think this guy plays a great point in the lore, it's very important. He looks really cool, and he drops a really good weapon by cutting off his tail. I also love the idea of the concept, you can't beat him the first time, you come fight him the second time, and you break his immortality cell to be able to fight him. But that's kind of where the coolness ends. And this fight's either going to be super hard or super easy depending on which way you go about it. If you just stay near his pubes and slice away, it's going to be fairly easy, even though you can't really see his attacks because his head's all the way up there. But that doesn't matter too much because you kind of have sound cues of his like screams and roars, so you kind of know when to back off and when to go. But if you stay near his tails, you're going to get butt booty raped. And in the spot right after that is Gwendolyn. I honestly think this is a pretty decent boss, and it does its job just right for being a gimmick boss. How this fight goes is there's like an infinite hallway, and you keep running towards him while dodging spells, arrows, and all sorts of things like that. This fight is basically like the Moonlight Butterfly fight, but an upgrade in the sense that it's harder, he hits more, and you're more involved. Like, you're like actually in it. It's not sleep-inducing because he'll get you. Like, if you stand still and are not really paying attention that much, you'll die. I also really enjoy the arena for this. I think it's pretty unique, and this boss as a whole is pretty unique. So that's why I enjoy it, but it's just not that good. And coming up next is the Four Kings. I honestly think this boss is one of the most overrated in the series. It's not horrible by any means, but I think it's kind of annoying. And it's really not about skill, about how you play. It's just basically about how good your build is and how much damage per second can you do. And I really do enjoy the concept, but I kind of hate how you automatically have one ring taken away if you want to fight this boss. And considering everybody uses the Ring of Favor and Protection, you have 0 rings. And I do like the mechanic how if you're farther away, you take more damage, but that just really pushes for you to stay up close, use Happles, and just attack. Because rolling really does no benefit because you're on a time scrunch, and when you're so close, you don't even really take that much damage. Which, is cool and all, but it kind of pushes for that just, spam heavy weapons and spam really good armor, and that's all you need to do. And right after the Four Kings, I'm going to put the Gaping Dragon. This boss was like an initial super surprise. Wow, it shocked you. You thought it was a little alligator, giant, ferocious monster. But besides that and how cool it looks, this boss fight is pretty boring. It's just your average erotic, enraged beast where it just runs around, stomps, slashes its tail, bites, and just causes chaos. And for me, this fight played out as he just dashed towards you, had some questionable hitboxes, stood still for a second, and kept doing that dash thing. You also gotta make sure to kill the Chancellor, whatever you called it, because he will buff the boss and shoot arrows at you the whole time, which is just not fun. The last thing I like about this fight is you can chop off its tail, which gives you a cool weapon, and what it does is it gets sort of like the dragon's most used and most powerful move. And coming right after that is the Capra Demon. I know most people would have put this lower, but I really actually would have liked to put this a lot higher. The only reason that I'm not is because you find lots of these later in the game, which kind of, ruin the authenticity and ruin the uniqueness of it, and the camera in the boss fight is pretty annoying. But I really do enjoy the dogs in the Capra Demon compound. And although I did die to this a lot and got very mad because of it, I enjoyed it. I had fun when I did this boss fight, trying to, plan a different strategy, because I know my big weapons would clink off the stairs and I wouldn't be able to hit them. I had to switch up my build a little and kill those guys, and once it was just me and the Capra Demon, it was a nice little one-on-one. It just also got your heart shaking, you were scared, and made you full of adrenaline, so overall, I just really like this boss fight. And coming up next is the Asylum Demon. I know I maybe should have put this a little bit lower, but in my opinion, this is the perfect tutorial boss. It's not too crazy, but it's also not too easy where it just lets you kill it. It's got some interesting attacks, very good variety, and it makes it so you lose on purpose the first time you have to come back stronger. I also do enjoy the plunge attack moment, and if you take too long, he jumps up and smashes you. I also love the way that he falls in from the sky and his big fat juicy ass. And coming up next is the Iron Golem. I personally actually really enjoy this fight. It's such a comical fight. It's like you're in a cartoon. A big, tough, scary giant, and half the time you fight him, he's wobbling and he falls off where you're fighting him. I also do enjoy when you can take different precautions to set up the boss fight, like the giant fire golem, for example. He throws in fireballs, which some people would actually like and, make the boss fight hard for them, but most people don't like it, so what they'll just do is just go and kill him. I actually do really enjoy this type of, unique little things in a boss fight. But besides that, he's a pretty cool boss, has some nice attacks, but for the most part, he's pretty average, so that's why he's right here. And right after that is Priscilla, which is not only an optional boss, it's a boss fight that's passive till you attack it first. And for me, this boss fight, to be honest, is pretty easy and can be kind of lame because she has that breath attack, which is super easy to dodge, and her scythe attacks, which are really predictable and 90% of the time don't hit you. But what she has, which I really do love, is her invisibility thing, where she's invisible, she hits you, it scares the shit out of you, so you can kind of learn that you can see and hear her footsteps in the snow, which is really cool. And I honestly think that's just such a refreshing feature that's not really done in this game, so that kind of brings more life, more variety, and more uniqueness to this fight. And coming in 12th place is Quelaag. With a really hot and beautiful lower body and a disgusting upper body, this boss fight is a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It has some pretty predictable yet scary slashing attacks. It has a pretty nice AoE, but what I really hate about this boss fight is her lava attacks. They're just really bad hitboxes. They stun you forever, and sometimes they stun you and they keep pushing you into the lava. And sometimes they just last forever, and it's so annoying because you can't go anywhere. But I do really enjoy this boss fight. The aesthetic, the arena, all the different types of approaches and ways of fighting her. And it's the boss that you have to kill to be able to get into Sen's Fortress, which makes it super important, but that also means that people are going to be fighting it really early game when they're weak, so she'll be very challenging, yet she's really fair. And just missing the top 10 is the Terrorist Demon. Now this is the boss fight when I think of Dark Souls Remastered that comes to mind. It's so memorable, maybe because of the arena, the atmosphere, and how crazy this boss fight is to run into because it's your second boss and you don't know what you're getting yourself into. I love how you can run all the way back and climb up the ladder to do a nice little plunge attack on him, and that he will jump up and kill you if you're taking your time. Now, since this is an early game boss, there's nothing too crazy. He does do pretty hefty damage with some pretty crazy attacks, but he has really low health and really low defenses. So if you have your weapon to plus anything or just using lightning pine resin, you're gonna destroy him. And setting the bar for the top 10 and what's gonna be better than that. And setting the bar for the top 10 and under is Nito. Now this boss fight on the surface looks kind of bad and scary. It's got a really bad run back. You automatically take fall damage. You're getting ganked by tons of skeletons while fighting him, and he has that Gravelord knife thing that goes under the ground, which is basically a fist that's guaranteed to go up your butthole. But this boss fight plays out really well, actually. First off, Nito is very passive, because he's going to have skeletons helping him out. He's not going to be slashing all the time while they are. Skeletons are also fairly passive. His attacks are pretty well telegraphed, his AoE is pretty well telegraphed. As long as you don't venture to the back of the arena, you won't be fighting too many skeletons at once. Also, I love how he can kill his own skeletons, because most of the time when I'm fighting him, I don't even really have to worry about the skeletons. I just kind of dodge them and let him kill them for me. And you guys might be thinking, have I forgotten about Pinwheel? No, and he's in 9th place. This may be kind of crazy to some people, but I really enjoyed this boss fight. And people totally disregard him as a good boss and stuff like that, just because he's so easy. Well, you're actually, in my opinion, you're supposed to fight him early game. So whenever I go down there early game, it's a challenge. And you can actually see that he has such cool and unique attacks if you actually just let that fight go on long enough. People don't really see all the cool stuff that he can do because, obviously you're going there later game, you're going to one-shot him. But when you're going there early game, he duplicates himself, he has flying attacks, and overall, I can really never find him. It's like a better Sister Sage or whatever that boss fight is in Dark Souls 3. It's actually really challenging too. And coming right after that is Sif. Now this boss fight, I want to first start off with the positives. It's a cool looking boss fight, he's got a nice sword. If you go ahead and beat the DLC before fighting him, he'll have a unique cutscene. Once you get him low, he'll have a unique animation where he limps and stuff. But it is a bigger boss fight, so just standing under his balls and right next to his legs will really prevent him from hitting you 99% of the time. He has a cool arena and a pretty cool moveset, which kind of feels unfair at first, but then you kind of learn you can see when he's about to slice his attacks because he has a really fast animation, but you can kind of tell beforehand when he's going to do those attacks. And that's about all for Sif. On to Gwyn. Now this boss fight was kind of disappointing. I still do enjoy this boss fight, but he has very few attacks. Now, his attacks are really cool, his jumping lunge and his attack where he grabs you and blows you up, but I'm pretty sure those are literally the only 2 attacks that I've ever gotten against him. He's also super easy, but he does have the best music, the best atmosphere, and by far the best arena. But this boss fight can actually turn really hard once you start healing. I don't know what it is, but you're better off just not healing in this fight, because once you start healing, he will full sprint to you and slash and thrash at you like there's no tomorrow. And he does have great lore, and he looks really cool, but this is the highest I can put him because the gameplay is kind of mediocre. And following that is Sanctuary Guardian. I actually really like this fight and think it's pretty underrated. He first off has a ranged attack moveset where if you're pretty far, he'll shoot lightning, and if it hits you, he'll do a different attack after compared to if it doesn't hit you. Now he also has a pretty good medium range set where he swings his tail, he flaps his wings and stuff like that, and if that hits you, he'll go for a counterattack, and if it doesn't, you can send free shots off him. And he also has a close range moveset where he slashes, he headbutts and stuff like that. This is overall a really fast and hard-hitting boss fight. Now with all those things in mind, it doesn't feel unfair. This is a fair boss fight where if you dodge, you'll be able to hit him. But your time frames aren't too, long, so you can't be greedy. Usually in this fight, you'll only be able to get 1 hit off. And just cracking the top 5, that is the Bell Gargoyles. There's not that much to say, it's just, a good fight. There's starting off 1 gargoyle at first, and once you get it to half health, another one will spawn in, which starts at half health too. So it's not like you have to fight 2 bosses. Now, they're not going to be just on your butt 24/7 like they are in Dark Souls 2. One is attacking you while one sprays fire. So it's a little bit passive, and it just gives you that, extra thing to worry about. It makes you nervous, it makes you have adrenaline. And this boss fight is hard, but it's one of those fights where you can either learn, or since it's so early game, you can just upgrade your weapon and come back. So either way, this probably is going to be a roadblock for some people on their first playthrough, but it's one of those things you can overcome, and it's just, a blast to do. And coming right after that is Manus, Father of the Abyss, the one and only. Now this boss fight has great hitboxes, great lore, pretty decent arena, great looking boss, and overall, just great boss in general. Now this boss fight hits hard, is super fast, and is always keeping you on your toes because of that dark attack where it just comes from behind you and almost one-shots you. The only problem with this boss fight is It's just not really meant for this game. This is like a boss you find in Bloodborne or maybe DS3. But this boss is way too fast for Dark Souls Remastered, which makes it kind of frustrating and annoying sometimes, because it can kind of feel unfair how fast his attacks are, and now he'll just keep hitting you and getting you stuck in that combo. And just cracking the top 3 is the big boy, the man himself, Artorias. Now this is honestly just a super badass, honorable one-on-one duel. He has some pretty unique attacks, such as him buffing himself. Every time you get like 25% of his HP, he'll roll back and start buffing. So you can either be like, I'll let him buff so he does more damage and has more defense, or I can try to knock him out. So if you knock him off, he doesn't get buffed at all, but if you fail to do so, he'll blow you up. And he has those pretty cool flip attacks, which sometimes have questionable hitboxes, but nonetheless, it's a really cool fight. Tons of unique moves, slashes, and everything in between. And if you were wondering, how could Artorias be in 3rd place and who could top him, I'll name you one right now, and that is Calmi. This is the ideal dragon boss fight. It's not over the top, it's nothing crazy, but it has pretty dang good hitboxes, and it's hard, but in a fair way. And this is one of the very few dragons that I have fought that have a cool move and just don't spam it. And this guy has every single type of attack, from tail slashes, arm slashes using this weird crystal magic, flying up in the air and doing some black flame, whatever that's called, yet he uses them all equally. And I mean, what else is there to say? He gets sniped from a giant out of the air and has to fight you with a giant arrow inside of his wing. And coming in 1st place, what else could it have been other than Ornstein and the big boy Smough? I mean, this fight, they're just polar, and the 2 bosses in this fight are polar opposites. Ornstein, he's fast, he's agile, he hits lighter, and he has less health. And Smough, he's more passive, he hits harder, he has a longer charge up, and he has more health. I mean, first off, the bosses look great, the arena looks great, and not only does the arena look great, it helps you play a role in defending yourself because of these pillars. These pillars will help you dodge Smough while being able to fight Ornstein. And depending on which one you kill first, you'll be fighting a different boss in 2nd phase. If you kill Smough first, you'll fight a giant buffed up Ornstein. If you kill Ornstein first, you'll fight a giant buffed up Smough. And for most king bosses, it'll feel unfair because they're attacking at the same time. And even though these bosses kind of do that, it feels fair. You will die a lot on this boss. This is one of the hardest bosses in the Souls series, yet it feels so fair and it feels so fun to fight him every single time. The only notably down, not as good part is the butt slams. I really do hate those butt slams. But besides that, this is the ideal perfect boss fight. And that is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching.